Welcome to Jon Ferrian Live. We are here on June 21st, 2020. Guess what? This weekend, it's the first weekend of summer 2020. And to celebrate summer solstice, yesterday on June 20th, 2020, guess what I did? Those who follow me regularly already know I was shredding up in the mountains here in Washington State. We were at Bear Paw, and I put the probe in the ground and buried that thing all the way to the end. It was a 280 centimeter probe, and it had a little extra on top, and I pushed that thing all the way through, and I barely touched the ground. There's nearly 10 feet of snow still up there in some spots, people. Amazing that we're still riding here in Washington State in some very select areas in June 20th, 2020, summer solstice. So happy summer solstice, everybody. Thank you for coming in and watching tonight. As you guys know, you're already doing it. Drop it in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. In addition to where you're watching from, so here, drop it in where you're watching from. But tell me this as well, because my last day of riding was 1 day ago. Yesterday, 1 day ago was my last ride, my last snowmobile ride. I want to know from all of you out there, what was your last ride? Either drop the date in there, or how many days it was ago, or how many weeks ago or months ago it was since your last snowmobile ride. And I mean on the snow. All you watercross people, don't cheat and tell me when you were watercrossing yesterday. Tell me when the last ride you had on snow was, and get it going. So as you guys know, Jon Ferrian Live, we come here every Sunday night, 7 p.m., right here, right now, and we talk about safety, we talk about education, we talk about growing the sport in a positive way. And I've got to tell you, we got some exciting things to come. Not only tonight, I've got Rick Shircel from Altitude Sickness. He's going to be talking to us tonight about head traumas, head injuries, how to take care of it as somebody in your riding group, or, doesn't matter if you're in the snow, if you're out on the road, wherever you're at. If you've got an issue, he's going to talk us through that tonight. But we've got some other great things coming up. I've got Jake Yerk from the snowcross scene. He's going to be talking to us this coming Thursday about a cool project he has going on with getting posters to kids. So getting some race posters out there to all the fans, the kids who are out there who might be impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic that's going on. So that's what's going on there on Thursday. We'll have him on. Then I'm excited to tell you that I'm going to be on a cross-country trip from Washington through Idaho, through Wyoming, through Iowa, through Nebraska, into Minnesota. And I'm actually going to spend some time in Minnesota, but I'm going to be in Casper, Wyoming on this next Sunday night, a week from tonight. And my plan is to have Cole Critchen on live in person from Casper, Wyoming is my Sunday night there. The next Sunday night after that, I'm planning on being in New England, flying out to Boston, going to be in New England, and we're going to do an episode live, I think from New Hampshire. And I got on the phone with Heidi Munson tonight, and I think we're going to do a little watercross episode live and in person from New Hampshire. I'm hoping we can make that work, right? That's kind of in the works. And then from there, the sky's the limit. We're going to keep rocking our way back across the country and meeting lots of cool people as I come back across the country. As you guys may have heard if you follow me, so I was notified this week that my job at T-Mobile was eliminated this week. And so I have a little time off in the transition time. I'm getting a severance package, all that. I'm going to be looking for a new job. So if anybody out there has got the perfect job for me, give me a call, let me know. But outside of that, I've got a little extra time this summer. I'm going to take advantage of that. The severance package is going to take care of me financially for a little bit, so we're going to be good to go there. But I want to go see the country, and I want to see a lot of my Live Large friends as I'm traveling across the country. Couple things, some business I want to take care of quick. I know I'm going long, guys. Sorry about that. But Live Large University BRAP here. This shirt is available right now on the website. On the website, I'll drop in the comments here a little bit later. It's Live Large item orders. If you just go to Google, search Live Large item orders, it'll pop right up. Get in there and order your shirts. 100% of the proceeds from these shirts go to Erie Scholarship. Live Large University scholarships we've got going on for motorized education this next winter. And just by purchasing a new shirt or whatever else is on there, there's going to be hats and stuff coming as well. But right now, just shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, that kind of thing. Just by making a purchase, every item you order gets you entered into a contest to win a level 1 avalanche class with Brian Lundstedt from Tyler's Backcountry Awareness this coming winter. So he's going to be giving away 2 of those and 2 lucky winners between now and August 31st. I'm going to cut it off, and my plan is to give those away along with some of our scholarships that we've got funding for already at Heydays. So right now, Heydays is planned. It's supposed to happen, and I'm going to do my best to be there unless I'm starting a new job. That's the only reason I won't be there. But here's the thing, guys. You got a new logo coming too. I'm hoping to have some hats available soon with this embroidered logo on the front of it. The JFL stands for Jon Ferrian Live. Fitting for tonight's episode, the red cross in the middle. We'll talk about that. And then last but not least, Woody's Racing is sponsoring the show tonight. They're giving away some Idahoan potatoes and a Woody's Racing hat. So combo package for anybody who watches the show tonight, shares the show tonight. Get it out there, get the word out on the street, help save somebody in your riding group. I guarantee you guys, if you ride long enough, doesn't matter if it's on snow or off of snow, you're going to learn something tonight that's going to help you out in the future. So again, share this out, get the word out about what's going on, and you have an opportunity to win a prize from Woody's Racing. So, all right, guys, and I'm going to bring Rick up now in 3, 2, and 1. Rick, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing great, John. How are you doing today?
Good. You know what I love? I love episodes where my guest has been on before and they know exactly what to expect and we're already good buddies and we're going to make it happen tonight.
I don't know if I know exactly what to expect because I didn't expect to see somebody water skiing behind a snowmobile a day ago. So saying that I know what to expect, I really don't know what to expect anymore.
Well, Rick, let me just remind you and the rest of the audience what Live Large is all about. When they read Live Large on a shirt, on a hat, in this show, what I tell everybody Live Large means is it's live life to the fullest. That's what we were doing yesterday. Make the most of every day and make a difference to others in this world. And I think we hit all 3 of those yesterday on the mountain. I was people who've never ridden, including me, June 20th, ever. Like, that was making a difference in their lives. We were showing some people a good time, and everybody was living life to the fullest.
Yeah, I was like my partner, Jason. I was like, there's no way these guys are going to be going water skiing behind a snowmobile. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? If I could do it, I'd be doing that. And then sure enough, I see the video. I'm like, they went and they did it.
Yep.
So it's been a lot of fun watching it. It's been kind of hard for us in Wisconsin because our snow season, our season got cut short just because of the whole COVID reason. I know that you're asking, like, when was the last time that you got to go out sledding on the mountains and stuff? And for me, that was the end of February when I went out to Island Park. Yeah. Island Park with Scott and Steve Turnquist. We met up with Joe Martinez and stuff. That was the one-armed guy that we're teaching how to go and sled again. Yeah. And then I had like almost the whole good part of March off, expecting to go back out, and then came back to work. Travel ban came on, and then that was just it for us. And it's been tough.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, man. It's like when they first cut off everything with COVID, and they gave me the big guilt trip about like no more riding. I took it to heart, and being somebody who really is passionate about safety, not only backcountry safety, but just safety for the public as a whole. I felt it was my responsibility to kind of hold back as well, and so I did. I killed about 5 weeks of riding here in the state of Washington. Pretty much all of it was about, I think, March 24th, 5th, 6th, somewhere in there was my last ride before COVID. Mm-hmm. And then when they kind of pretty much cut everything off and told everybody not to, I'm like, I better do that. I try to be a role model, an example for what people are doing right in the backcountry, and I felt obligated to take that on. And then in early May is when the state in Washington here started to reopen some of the state parks and some of the backcountry land again. And I took that as my cue to get back out there and start shredding. And we've been doing it safely ever since. All the groups we've been with, everybody been riding, again, as much fun as we're having, you can still be crazy and be safe about it. And think about it, right? I mean, as crazy as that video looked and as nuts as we were for doing it, we had safety in mind the whole time. Like, we were all wearing helmets.
Right.
My buddy who was on a life jacket, he was wearing a life jacket. The water we were in, frankly, was only a foot or two deep. There was like a layer of ice underneath, and it was like a foot and a half, 2 foot of like slushy water. So nobody was going under.
Blue water to me. That's all.
Yeah, that was glacier fed or like mountain fed water. And then I had my my helmet on, and I was wearing my boots, and I had my knee pads on, skidding down the water. The worst thing that happened is I was sliding down on the giant inflatable hot dog. I just said that. Yeah, I was sliding down the hill on a giant inflatable hot dog. I hit my butt in one of the bumps down there, and it kind of jacked my back up a little bit. But that's the worst thing that happened. It's feeling pretty good tonight again.
Yeah, we were trying to decide whether or not you had a sweater underneath your bibs or if that was just your skin.
That was just my furry coat.
Yeah, exactly. Right. He's naturally born to be in the snow the whole time. So
Awesome, awesome. Well, let's get to the topic at hand tonight, Rick. And I want to remind everybody that altitude sickness is the business that you and your buddy Jason have come up with. And you
yes,
guys, on our previous episode that we did, talked all about your first aid kit that you guys have in the backcountry that you're building and getting ready. You already have it, but you're also in partnership with Skins. You were introduced through Dan Adams to Skins, the
right.
company, to create a new bag that's a waterproof bag for your first aid kit. And what's the update on that? What's the latest and greatest on Skins being ready to give you guys the bags for your new kits?
Skins got burned a little bit by the COVID thing too. They got kind of a little bit behind on things. The last time I talked to Jeff from Skins, that we should be getting a prototype this week. We've already gone through the artwork with my logo from Altitude Sickness as well as Dan Adams' logo on it from Next Level.
Nice.
We're just kind of really looking forward to it. We're hoping that we're going to get everything done before Heydays. I'm working on trying to get a booth there right now.
Nice.
Hopefully that'll happen. If not, I still like to go down there. I've never gone to Heydays before.
It's a good time. It's a good time.
So, with a little bit of luck, hopefully we'll be seeing people at Heydays. I got a spot for a 25 by 25 booth. I like to come down there, show everybody that the first aid kit that we're going to come there, hopefully sell a bunch of them and show people on how to go and use them. We're going to come down there with a couple of CPR dummies, our avalanche dummy that we go and produce to show people what that's going to be all about. And I think our big thing is just to get people's take on what we're trying to go and do and get people's opinions. If we can make something a little bit better, we'll make it better. Have them take a look at our avalanche dummy. I mean, this is all kind of new things that we're trying to go and do. So it's easy to say that we're experts as far as doing the firefighting, the paramedic job. But this is all kind of new to us also. We're trying to go and produce a whole clinic just based around post-avalanche rescue, and kind of taking off of what everybody else is doing as far as like teaching their avalanche courses and giving it one step farther and taking that all to the next level. And showing people that even though that you dug that person out, that to us, as far as like we're concerned, your work is just starting.
Yeah, exactly.
We want to go and prepare those people for that.
Yeah. And so the kit that you have available, I know I've already got one of the kits here. I've gone through it. Thank God I've been safe and I haven't had to pull anything out of it yet, but I've got it in my sled and it's accessible anytime I need it, which is a great peace of mind for me and the riding group that I'm in. And so what I tell everybody that's watching here is, you've mentioned it, but I'll just call it out, is that your day job is a professional firefighter / paramedic. And every day you and your buddy Jason are being called to action for your community to respond to about anything you can imagine, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think that's the thing that people, the department I work for, we're in a suburb of Milwaukee, so our whole fire department is like we're all paramedics. Sometimes I'm staffed on a med rig and a fire call come out. I'll go out on a fire call or a car accident or wires down. I'll come back and the next call could be a heart attack or a car crash. So I'm always constantly bouncing from either, I could go to a fire 1 minute, I could be dealing with a heart attack or a stroke or any kind of medical emergency.
Yeah, and so that's the thing I want to just remind everybody is my plan is to bring you and or Jason or both of you guys, depending on the topics and what's going on, multiple times in the future. And what we're going to do is we're going to isolate, like we are tonight, some key topics. And tonight we're going to talk about head injuries. And so I'm going to, in just a minute here after we tee this up, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you kind of run with it. But the thing I'll remind everybody is, here we are, June 21st, and I was sledding as recent as yesterday, right? There's other people out there that have been riding, all winter long. And then almost everybody that I know transitions into something related to power sports. We're doing ATVing, we're doing boating, we're, water skiing, we're, jet skiing, we're on motorcycles, on the road, off the road. We're in cars. Frankly, I'm going to be doing a road trip across country here shortly, and I'm not naive enough to believe that I may not come across and be the first person on scene of an accident at some point in time. I hope, pray to God, that it's not me and my family that are involved, but that doesn't mean that I can't offer support and help if I'm the first one on scene, right?
And I guess that's the thing that we really want to kind of stress to it. And even though that we're kind of doing the whole avalanche thing or, the outback sledding, is that the first aid kits that we're producing are not just, set for going backcountry as far as sledding.
Yeah.
They're set up where that Velcro background that you can basically go on both the back part onto like a UTV, put the strap on it, and take it with you. I'm an avid Harley rider and stuff, and I just want to go and bring this out. I know I talked to John about it, but this is Nick Berry. He was actually a part of my motorcycle club. He passed away due to a motorcycle accident, head trauma and spine trauma. I went to his funeral on Thursday.
Yeah.
And it's like I carry that first aid kit with me on my motorcycle, and it's like we put it on the boat. We always have that with us, and even bringing it with your car because you don't know when you're going to be coming up upon something that you need to have a medical. That you might be the first person on that scene.
Exactly. And so I'm just going to pause for a second here before we dive into this, but just calling out the fact that Rick, as much as you're a professional and that you want to educate the public in general, what you just stated was you literally just attended a funeral for a close friend of yours who had a head injury. So this particular topic hits close to home. It's very personal for you, and it's something that I know you're very passionate about and eager to share with everybody tonight.
Right.
So thank you for doing that. What I want to remind everybody is right now is the moment where we are about to go deep into the discussion around head injuries, and it's the perfect time, if you haven't already, share the show out, folks. We've got 36 some viewers watching now live. People come and go, I know, constantly in these shows, but right now is a great time to just share this out to your personal pages, your regular pages. Again, get the safety, get the education out there, and get in to win on some cool prizes. So, Rick, let's go into it a little bit. Do you want to start, winter? Do you want to start, thing or the type of injuries? I'll just kind of let you take it for a minute and kind of walk us through this, kind of how you want to go through it, and I'll try to engage and interact as I can. But really, the show is yours, sir.
Sure, thank you. And I think what we're going to go and do it just because, John brought up a great point that we are all. You can't say extreme sports enthusiasts, but we all like to get backcountry. I went right from hopping on my snowmobile. I just taught my daughter. She just picked up a CRF 125 that she's going to be riding a motocross bike. It's her first real true motocross bike. I've been riding motorcycles my whole life. Went from riding BMX to motorcycles to racing jet skis to power boating to drag racing, to riding street bikes and stuff. So a lot of these injuries that we're going to be talking about are going to be either injuries that I've suffered myself or injuries that I've gone to on a call, which is probably basically all of them, or that I've had friends have them and had friends pass because of these. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to kind of break it down. We're going to basically just talk about our head and things like you sit there and go and happen as far as any kind of sport that you're going to be dealing with. To just everyday life. And one of the biggest things is just like lacerations on your face and your head. And what people don't understand is that a laceration to your face or your head, because your head has so many vessels in it, that a lot of times it's bleeding a lot worse than you probably think that the injury is. That you can, even if it's a small, a decent sized deep cut, that could be a lot more blood that you think it's going to possibly, that you're going to need stitches, or the injury could be a lot worse. With older people, with them being on things such as blood thinners, being on aspirin will actually made things bleed more often. Or I was out boating all day today, sitting on an island. People are drinking up a storm and stuff like that. You always got the guy that's trying to be cool, doing a backflip off a boat, knocks his head, bleeds a ton. And the thing that people got to understand is that even though that you have a laceration on your head, a lot of times just by using direct pressure that you can go and stop that bleeding. So especially like when if you have injuries that are in the water, the biggest thing you want to go and do is clean out that wound. And it has everything to go and do because bacteria loves to sit there and sit in water. You get that into those cuts, it's going to get infected. I have an older brother that got a cut on the leg. He ended up getting blood poisoning. My daughter ended up getting blood poisoning once, just from a cut. It's something you got to really be concerned about. So of course you're going to want to go and clean it out, put the direct pressure on it, either an ointment, and like those sterile strips, depending on how big that cut is. Mm-hmm. A lot of times that, you can go and get a cut that's on your head by kind of like getting sterile strips on there. If it's on your face, totally recommend that you go on, depending on how bad it is, to go and, I'm real big on crazy glue, and I've crazy glued a lot of cuts shut. And I can honestly say that I probably duct tape a couple of cuts shut too. When it comes to your face, though, you want to make sure you get professional help and have somebody go take a look at that. Make sure they get the proper sutures on there, close it up properly. We've had a couple of calls now where people will get scalped. And
Mm-hmm.
when I'm saying scalp, that's literally a flap of skin being taken off the top of their head.
Wow.
It's another one of those injuries that looks terrible. It's going to bleed a lot. That's going to be, you're going to want to take that scalp. If it's full back, you want to put it back to where it was, direct pressure on it. If you got an altitude sickness first aid kit, we have a nice trauma pad to put on there, a Coflex wrap it around there, go and transport them to the hospital. So as far as like cuts and lacerations to your face, I think those pretty much covers everything that's going to go and do it. And we'll work our way up on how bad those cuts are as far as like if you got hit something, it'll probably maybe work up to a concussion or something else. I'll talk about those coming up a little bit.
Yeah, and something I'm interested in, and you'll probably get to it, but I'll just call it out now so you can kind of make sure you touch on it is, you know, you may have a combination of things, right? You may have
Right.
a laceration, including bleeding, and somebody might be knocked out and have a concussion, right?
Right.
And what I'm curious about that I know you'll get to is, what do you treat first, right? Like, do you stop the bleeding and get that taken care of and then try to figure out how to treat the concussion, or is it concussion? But I know you'll cover that, so I'm
Yeah.
going to turn it back to you.
And
So,
that's like one of those things like, it's you don't think it's like that big of a subject, but it actually really is. There's so many different, there's a proper way to go and do things.
mm-hmm.
And what I'm going to try to hit on is just like, you got a laceration, let's go fix that. Because if you end up with like a concussion or something like a basal fracture or something like that, you're going to want to start doing like life-saving interventions because that person can deteriorate very fastly. But the thing is also, you got to remember, if that person is bleeding, we have, we like to call it like a gas tank. We only have so much blood inside of our body.
Yeah.
Once that blood is depleted, that's it. If you got a severe head injury that you're bleeding out, if that's not stopped by either putting direct pressure on it, and I hate to say it, if it's a head injury, you're not putting a tourniquet around their head to go and stop the bleedings.
Exactly.
So your biggest thing is going to be using direct pressure.
So you're recommending not to put a tourniquet around somebody's neck. Did I hear that right?
No. So just right off the bat.
Just to be clear, let's get that out of the way. No tourniquets around the neck.
and that's going to be like one of these things. Like even though I'm a paramedic firefighter and stuff, is that I'm not going to have all the answers. So there's going to be people like, hey, maybe I forgot this, maybe that. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not been on your show twice.
Yeah.
So if I forget something, make sure you put it in the comments. I read everything like you go on YouTube. If I miss something, let me know. I want to make sure that I'm going to be doing a good job for you and everybody else watching it, and make sure I give you proper information.
Yeah, absolutely. And something we haven't talked about yet, Rick, and I'm assuming maybe it was just, let's just talk about it now, is if you've got a serious injury of any kind, the first thing they should do, I'm assuming, is call 911 and
yes.
call for professional support. So let's touch on that for a second before we go further.
And I'm glad you brought that up because time is the one thing that you'll never get back.
Yep.
And hesitating, and I, just like a lot of other people there, I read every avalanche report that's out there.
Yep.
And the one thing I notice a lot is that they'll see an avalanche, they'll have a person that they know is buried and stuff. They'll go through the whole motion that they'll go look for them. But one thing they forgot is that they don't go and get the cavalry moving. And it takes them, if you have a helicopter coming in or if you have SARS that needs to come and get you, every minute that is lost by you not calling them is a minute that you'll never get back. And
it depends. And it depends on the situation. And so if you are the only one there to respond and you're by yourself, if you have a way to dial 911, or we'll talk about maybe in a little bit more depth here in a minute, is satellite communication devices, whether it be a spot or an inReach. If you have the ability to trigger that like immediately first and get emergency services notified and on their way, and then immediately within seconds, if not minutes at the most, get into the action of the recovery or the repair or stopping the bleeding and all that kind of stuff. There's a combination of things, but like if you're somewhere where you have cell phone service, before you start touching anything, dial 911, get the emergency services coming, and then dive in. Right? Is that what you would recommend?
If you have a group of people, and I think that's gonna be like one of the things that we're gonna kind of stress when we start working on the clinic for the post-avalanche rescue.
Yep.
Is like when to call and when not to call. And there's one thing you got to remember: even if you do call, you can call them back and tell them like, hey, this person is okay. Yeah. We just wanted to get the ball rolling. I can guarantee you that there's going to be a whole bunch of guys that are going to be happy to get the ball rolling, and all of a sudden get a call, get a text back. It's like full burial, dug him out, patient is A-okay.
Yeah.
That some of my favorite calls, like we get a call and we call them P&B, so pulses non-breathers, and we'll get the whole cavalry coming and stuff, and we get there and that person's like, oh, they just fainted, or something that we didn't think of what it was, because like as soon as we hear that, we're thinking the worst case scenario, and we get there and it's like, I'll go on those all day, because that's a person that's viable. He's safe. We don't have to go and start pumping on his chest.
Yep.
It just doesn't make our job easier, but it's just a whole sigh of relief just off of
Absolutely.
us. Because we want to do a good job that we possibly can.
Yeah, and the other thing you were about to mention too was that if you have more than one person there to support, one person can go to dial 911 or use the satellite device or ride somewhere for cell coverage or somehow get to notifying the emergency services as soon as possible, while the other person then attends to the victim, right? So depending on how many people you have available.
And I think that's maybe there'll be like a subject that we'll touch on is the proper way to sit there and call a Mayday. Because like in the fire service, if we get caught in a fire and we have no way out, there's a procedure that we go and do to call a proper Mayday.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason and I have been talking about it, and we're probably going to contact some guys from SARS to figure out exactly what these people want that text to come in as. That you can go and you can program into your inReach or your spot to go and hit that button to make sure that if you have different choices, that you go and you send something that they know what's going to be going on.
Yeah, nope, absolutely.
But like I said, it's a subject we can talk for hours on this whole thing. But
that's why I want to do.
Stick to the head thing.
Yeah, that's why I want to do different episodes over time, and it works perfect. We'll spread them out. Maybe once a month or so. We'll try to have you guys on and cover multiple topics over time. So we'll just kind of fit you in where we can in the schedule. So, but yeah, we were talking about laceration, and then now you were going to change to a new subject.
So I'm going to change subject, and it's like it's kind of funny because it just actually happened to one of my friends. Like he got his tooth knocked out.
Okay.
And everybody's like, it's part of a facial injury and stuff like that. You get a tooth knocked out. And what a lot of people don't understand is that there is a proper way to go and deal with a tooth that gets knocked out, because you can save them. And one of the biggest things, especially like your molars or like your front teeth, that they have a pretty deep root system into them. And as long as you pick them up by the crown, that's not the root. It's called a crown. If it's got dirt on it, you go and you basically rinse it off, or you can like go and suck it clean, and you can place those back into your mouth.
Oh my God.
And you don't think that you would be able to, but you can. And a lot of times you're going to want to go see your endocrinologist.
I mean, you can transplant trees, but this is the first time I've heard you can transplant teeth. It sounds like
you can transplant your teeth. But another thing too is like when you do have a tooth that's out, and say like you go and you push it back up in there, and you can kind of hold it in there until you get to a certified professional, make sure it's going to go and take, or you can bite down to hold it in place. If you cannot get that tooth back in there properly that way, one of the things that you do not want to go and do is like do not put it into like a cup of water.
Okay.
Because like that water will actually go and kill that root system.
Wow.
So what you want to go and do is like you can take that tooth, you can put it into your mouth. You usually have like about 30 minutes to an hour until you get to a licensed professionals to go and make sure it gets planted back in, or you put it into a cup of milk.
Milk. Wow.
So they say like milk does body good.
I guess. Wow.
Like number one thing, do not put it into a cup of water. That'll deteriorate it. It'll make it junk. Most likely, you being able to go replant that tooth back inside your noggin isn't going to happen.
Wow.
Especially if you're backcountry and stuff like that. Let's face it, it takes a while to get back and forth.
Yeah.
And I know it's like geez, what are the chances of somebody losing their tooth? I've had plenty of injuries that I've never lost a tooth, but I've had my teeth pushed in enough times that you shut your jaw and you can feel them not fitting right.
Yeah.
You can usually push them back. The teeth are pretty resilient, a lot more resilient than you think they are.
Yeah.
But you can replace them if you do it right.
Well, I'll tell you what, Rick, I'm learning all kinds of stuff tonight, like stuff that you just you see it on TV, you hear different stories, and you kind of take things for granted, and you think you understand some things.
Right.
But several things you've talked about tonight, I've never heard before ever, and so this is amazing. I'm excited that I'm learning things new along the way. So
okay, so we're gonna move up a little bit, and we're gonna talk about your nose.
Okay.
Now, I've had a broken nose in the past. Exactly, but mine's pretty straight. I actually broke my arm snowboarding, put a cast on my arm. Went back snowboarding again, tried to protect my arm, hit my face against my cast, jacked up my nose.
You messed up that pretty face? What the heck?
Yeah, the moneymaker was kind of jacked up for a while. But nasal fractures, especially with like a lot of sports that we go and we deal with, and it's summer outside. You be it that you had a helmet on when you were water skiing.
Yep.
I'm a huge water skier. Been jet skiing for since back in the '80s.
Yep.
You take a lot of shots in the face. I've knocked my nose a bunch of times, never really broke it, but it's a thing. And nasal fractures are kind of weird because like your nose is all cartilage, but you do have this is bone up there. You can go and crack that, and that can cause a lot of other problems. The biggest thing what you want to go and check for is like if you do think that you broke your nose, it's going to be broken noses are a little bit weird. Sometimes they're displaced that you can literally see that it is broken. And the guys that sit there and like in the movies they go and they pop it back. I wouldn't go and do it. And it has a lot to go and do because you have a really big chance of getting a deviated septum from that. And that your septum is right here.
Yeah.
And when that gets deviated, that causes snoring. That means that you sleep on the couch, the wife sleeps in the bed.
Yeah.
You're with the dogs. It can cause a lot of other problems as far as like breathing problems. A lot of times you'll end up with bruising. Not too many times, and we'll go over like it's gonna be called raccoon eyes, and that's where you end up with like two black eyes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times that's kind of from like a skull fracture. That you can get hit back in the head that will give you raccoon eyes up in front. But that's not saying that you get a broken nose that you can end up with raccoon eyes from that also.
Yeah.
But those are two different kind of injuries. If it's like I said, if it's not fixed, you can end up with a deviated septum. You can end up with a collection of blood that's in your nose. That's going to be called a septal hematoma,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually a really kind of a bad problem too. That you're going to have the doctor have to go and clean that all out.
Yeah.
So I guess the big thing is like, if you think your nose is broken, go get X-rays. Don't try to go and set it yourself. Take it serious because like, you can end up with problems in the future.
And I would just throw it out there, and you can confirm this, Rick, if you know, I would love to have you confirm this, but when we're talking about head injuries like we are tonight, I think in most cases you're going to recommend that someone goes and sees a doctor after any
Right.
kind of a head injury, right? Because I think, you know, as you get into the concussion side of this, I'm sure you'll talk more about this, but like there can be short-term and long-term issues that may not be immediately obvious when it comes to a head injury, right? And so let's talk,
Right.
you know, I'll let you keep going through your list there, but I know we'll talk about that tonight too. So
Yeah,
always go to a doctor if you got a head injury of any kind, pretty much.
and that's what I was telling John before we talked before the show. Is like we're gonna kind of go on the easier things, and we're gonna kind of work up to the skull fractures and stuff and concussions,
Yeah.
and how important it is to take those very serious. And those are, and we'll get to that in a minute. Like I think I could count maybe 3 or 4 concussions. 2 of them were confirmed as far as having CT scans on it,
Mm-hmm.
and they're might have something to do with the way that I am right now. I don't know, but it's something that you should take really serious.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Now, since we're kind of working up, we're going to talk about the eyes. The eyes are kind of like the windows to your souls. And I remember John and I were just kind of talking on how important it is to wear your goggles.
Yeah, cover your eyes.
Yeah, exactly. And you only have 2 of them. You end up losing one of them. I don't know. Maybe you won't see that better line going up that hill than somebody else seen before you. You know, maybe you won't go and catch that one wave.
There you go.
I've had a couple of friends of mine that literally lost their eyesight due to like one of them had like grinder explosion that didn't have safety glasses on there.
Yeah.
And he ended up with a shower in there. He's going blind. Ken Casero, great Elvis impersonator. And that's another, God rest his soul. Another person stick to the eye. He ended up losing his sight because of it.
Yeah.
Especially with like especially now with as far as like we all like to ride the trees, and I know it's getting warmer outside. A lot of guys don't like to wear their goggles, either like on the motocross bikes going through the woods. On this, I always wear them. You know, it's just like I don't like things getting poked in my eyes the way it is. I think it's super important. It's easy to go and do. I make my daughter do it all the time, and it has everything to go and do with even something as simple as catching a bee in your eye, or you know, especially getting a stick in just can be the worst thing.
Well, you think of, let's talk just for a minute about your eyes and, you know, just random experiences I've had that like literally just a couple days ago, I was out mowing the lawn and generally I don't wear eye protection when I'm riding a riding lawnmower because I'm above all of the,
Right.
you know, and it's anything that's going to happen is going to go outward. Right. And you don't even consider it, but I literally had something, I don't know if it was a piece of bark or a little mini rock or something fly out from under the deck, it hit my actual deck or my house, in the back patio, and
Right.
it ricocheted back up and hit me right in the eyeball. And I was like, oh my God, luckily it was not
Yeah.
at high speed, but that could have been an eye injury for me just like that, just something simple. But also something as simple as riding bicycle. Like you go down a hill at 20, 30 miles an hour on a bicycle because you've caught some speed, you get a bug in the eye or something like that. Like it can be pretty damaging. So
I don't care what anybody says. Like I said, I've been riding motorcycles my whole life. June bugs hurt. Can't
yeah.
imagine what that would feel like to get caught in your eye.
Yeah, and even if you got a windshield in front of you, a lot of those windshields are just at or above or below eye level. Doesn't mean they can't circulate back in and come down and get
Nope.
you. So having some kind of eye protection in addition to a windshield, I think, is critical for anything that you're traveling over 10 miles an hour on. So
like when it comes to your eyes, a lot of times something is like even get like sand in your eyes, getting it brushed by a stick. Like I said, maybe I'm a big welder, big grinder, and stuff like that all the time. I'm always getting stuff caught in my eyes, even when I got things on. But getting like a scratched lens, it's very irritating. It's bothersome. It's gonna be something it's gonna bug you. And one of the big things is like you're gonna want to go and rub it all the time. Don't rub it.
yeah,
You got to kind of just go and let it sit. Now that being said, if you end up with like a scratched eye, in like a water situation, like you're screwing around, whatever, you scratch your eye, it's going to be kind of important to go and make sure that you go and kind of get that checked out, just for the fact because you're in a very high bacteria. You're in water. It's a dirty spot, and a lot of times like they think it's like, okay, I'm going to go put a patch on there, nice and tight and stuff like that. You're not going to want to go and do that, and it has everything to go and do because bacteria likes that dark, compressed, wet area that you want to be able to take. And it's almost kind of funny that they talk about like putting like a Dixie cup over your eye and taping it on there, or like making like a cone out of a piece of paper and taping it on there, so that way it's not putting pressure against that eye. It's allowing it to breathe a little bit, and it's not keeping all that bacteria pressed in there.
Well, and the thing you think about, like other injuries in other parts of your body, you could put something like alcohol or isopropyl, all whatever, something to kill the infection in a wound. You can't do that in your eye, right? Obviously, and so you have to treat it very differently.
Right. And like some of the other eye injuries that we're going to be dealing with are going to be like penetrating eye injuries, and to me these are kind of the worst because like I haven't had to go on a whole lot of those calls. But I'm a big YouTuber, so I've seen a lot of good ones. Everything between a stick being caught in somebody's eye to knives,
fishing
lures is huge, and it's like I get it that even if it's something that's small, you think you can grab it and pull it out. Not saying you want to go do it with a fishing lure, but that's another one of those things that you're going to want to go and kind of protect that in place. That you don't want it moving around a whole lot. Put a cone around it. Keep that piece that's stuck in your eye protected. Keep that eye protected. We'll seek medical help with that, especially that's another thing like fishing lures. I never thought that would be a huge thing when I was like researching like eye injuries. Like one of the number one things that people get stuck on. Now, so you get a penetrating eye injury. One of my big things, like when I was doing the whole drag racing thing. Like our gas jugs have these big, huge spouts on it, and I remember I got this 115 octane gas, and I bounce that jug down. I get a big face full of fuel on there.
Yeah.
So when you get like anything that's caustic in your eyes, and you're going to have either like an alkaline or an acidic substance in it, and it's almost funny, God, how the acid ones are almost better to get in your eyes because you can wash it out with water for like 15 minutes and go and negate that acidic substance to that. It's going to be, you're going to end up with red eyes. What? I had to go see what my daughter was writing me.
Yeah, there you go. But, one thing that I've had happen to me personally, like in the garage, just doing maintenance on my snowmobile or other things, even bicycles, is something like, brake fluid or starter fluid. You're spraying something to clean a part. And unless you're wearing some kind of eye protection, it can ricochet off there because it's high pressure can that's shooting, a little nozzle, and it'll backwash right. And I've gotten hit. I can't tell you how many times over the years. You'd think I'd be smarter than that, but probably a dozen times in my lifetime I've had something like that happen, and it stings like the dickens. Oh my gosh!
Yep. And that's gonna be like one of those things. Continually flush out your eyes with water, lukewarm water, and don't get it too hot and stuff.
Yeah.
The acid will be way better. I remember I got a bunch of fiberglass dust in my eyes, and that's like one of those things that you're going to get. Fiberglass is the worst because it's going to scratch your eyes up. It's extremely irritating.
Yeah.
You gotta sit there, you gotta stay with it, keep rinsing it out. Rinse for 15 minutes. Change the big thing. I got my daughter sitting there helping me out, making sure I got all my notes down pat.
Yeah, perfect. And while she's doing that, I'll just remind everybody, let everybody know that if you're watching the show tonight, and if you have ever, whether you're watching the show now live or if you're watching it later as a replay, is let us know if you have ever sustained any kind of a head injury and what it was. And we're curious whether the advice that you're hearing tonight has been helpful based on what you've experienced. And so, Scott, Tia, Chris, anybody who's watching tonight, and your buddy Jason is watching tonight too. I see him commenting here too. He's saying hi to everybody.
Oh,
So
great.
he's critiquing you. He's going to be giving you. He'll give you the lecture later on what you messed up.
My good old buddy J Bone sitting there helping me out today.
Oh yeah, awesome.
I got a great video of him someday. I'm gonna have to show you.
Nice. All right,
So
back to you.
I'm just gonna go kind of finish up the eye thing, and then we'll get to concussions and stuff.
Yep.
But also, like one of the big things is like a subconjunctival hemorrhage in your eyes, and that what that is, that's a broken blood vessel in your eyes.
Oh wow.
And they look terrible. I actually had one of those once, and it's like where the whites of your eyes turn red, and all it is a broken blood vessel.
Mm-hmm.
It could either because like a shot in the eye by a baseball, you got hit in the head or something. It's just that a blood vessel broke. They look kind of cool because their whole eye is red. But they're not as bad as what people think they are. They just look bad.
Yeah.
A lot of times after about 3 or 4 weeks of just doing nothing,
Healing.
It doesn't affect your eyesight. They'll heal on their own. You'll end up with it being bright red. Sometimes it's just on one side of the eye. Sometimes it's on both sides of the eye. Sometimes it's both eyes.
Yeah.
But with like when blood starts to go and seep back into your body, it'll start turning yellow. You look like you're jaundice or something.
Yeah.
But it'll basically kind of heal on your own. One of the worst eye injuries is going to be a high fremal and orbital blowout. And what that is, that's when you take a severe hit to the eye.
Okay.
Where it's going to you're gonna actually fracture the bones around your eyes up into the chamber. It'll cause like a facial fracture surrounding the eye. That's going to be it's a medical emergency. Whenever you have something that's going to hit your face so hard, that it's almost like it doesn't like really pop out your eye. And that's going to be another thing too. Like if you do pop out your eye, put it in sterile gauze, hold it there. Don't try to go put it back in right yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of times when something like that happens, that's going to be the reason why, because you took such a huge hit because of that.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, we're going to go to your concussions.
Okay.
Because a lot of these injuries are going to be in conjunction with getting your head hit hard enough that you're end up with a concussion. And that's going to be either like lacerations, broken noses, knocking out your teeth, or whatever. And what is a concussion? A concussion usually is your brain hitting off the side of your skull.
Mm-hmm.
That's either going to be through a sudden deceleration or an acceleration of your head.
Mm-hmm.
It causes swelling. Though that concussions really aren't that bad, because we probably have all had, with our sports, we probably all had concussions. It's the repeated concussions. When you talk about like the football players having repeated concussions all the time, they end up with so many problems. And like a lot of these head injuries are going to have certain signs and symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And like when I talk about like your eyes having like a window through the soles, it can be something as simple as like you feel like you're okay, but maybe you have blurred vision. Or maybe like we have a light in our first aid kit that we go and we kind of check to see if your eyes are reacting properly to light. And what it is, like your iris is kind of wide. We put a light in there and it shrinks down. We call that constricting. And what we do is we check both of your eyes to see if they're going to be parallel, equal, and reactive to light. That's what PERL stands for.
Okay.
Both those eyes are reacting the same. A lot of times that maybe you just got your bell rung, but you don't end up with a concussion.
Yeah.
If we go and we check that and those eyes aren't they're sluggish, or they're maybe like kind of blown out, or they're not reacting equally from side to side, that's showing that you have a potential chance of a concussion.
Okay.
Now, concussions can lead to other things also. And this is kind of like when people get in like car accidents, or they have like They're a motorcycle crash. Or my first concussion was actually I was in a jet ski race, and what people don't understand, like when you race jet skis and you fall off your ski, you are head even now with the next ski that's coming towards you. So the thing they're going to hit is your head,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what ended up happening to me. Ended up with didn't go to the doctor. Well, actually, I ended up going to the doctor probably about 2 weeks later for that because every time I got worked up, I lost my balance, I had vertigo. So I had my CT scan too. It's like, you have signs of a concussion. Now, if you don't get these concussions going checked out, you have a chance of like having a hemorrhage in your brain.
Yeah.
That is a broken blood vessel that you have the swelling of your brain that's pushing against your skull. That's kind of giving you some like signs and symptoms. And when I say signs and symptoms, I'm talking about like dizziness, vomiting, nausea, irritability, loss of balance, fainting, any of those kind of things. But if you go and you hit your head, you should go see medical advice. If you end up with a brain bleed, like a subcutaneous brain bleed, or just like a hematoma, like breaking your brain, that'll sit there and lead into more and more pressure building up into your brain, where it can lead to death. And when I say I've had a couple of people that I know pass from these things, car accident 1 week, totally fine, end up with bad headache, drop dead. Two of my friends that happened to, you would have never guessed it.
Yeah, so they seem totally normal. Did they visit the hospital and get checked out, and they still ended up passing away, or they just didn't?
They didn't, and that's why it's so important to take like your head injuries really serious, because like even though it might be just like you think it's just a concussion, you think you're gonna be fine. A week later, it could literally just be a small bleed.
Yeah.
That can end up showing up like a stroke symptoms. It can end up being, you think you got vertigo, maybe it'll go away, maybe it won't go away.
Yeah.
I got a buddy that's in a Wisconsin Brain Injury Center because he actually got in a fight where he got punched.
Okay.
Went to bed feeling fine, woke up, he kind of had vertigo, very dizzy and stuff. Within hours, they took him to the hospital. He is practically a vegetable now.
Wow.
Extremely sad story and stuff. So I guess when we talk about like head injuries, that there are certain things that if you do get your bell rung that you want to go and think about. One of those things I was talking about as far as like the raccoon eyes.
Yeah.
I had a set of raccoon eyes because I flipped over my BMX bike. I hit the back of my head. Probably ended up with a concussion. I was pretty young. Woke up with raccoon eyes. Those are a sign that you have a traumatic brain injury, either concussion or something else happened. One of the worst things that you could probably end up with is a basal skull fracture. And what that is like that's where they're back in the back of your skull.
Wow.
And you end up with things, it's called battle wounds, where you end up with like bruising behind your ears.
Okay.
And you can end up with this bruising behind your ears, but also you can end up with the raccoon eyes. That is, you cracked your skull.
Yeah.
That's all it's to it. If you get into really bad things, that's open and closed skull fractures. Closed skull fracture is where you go and you crack your skull, and it's inside your skull. You really can't go and see it. Open skull fracture, that's where basically you see brain matter. Yeah. If you got that, hold it in, call for help.
Yeah.
It's a severe injury.
Yeah.
Take them all serious. Just want to see what my daughter's doing. Oh, one of the things I wanted to go and talk about, since we were kind of talking about helmets and stuff, is that I've been kind of watching like a lot of motocross, and motocross came out with a pretty cool new way of taking off helmets.
Okay.
And what it is like if this is a 509 helmet, it doesn't have it on there, but you'll see like a red tag that's right on this side.
Okay.
And what that is, because like all of our helmets now, like motocross helmets, jet ski helmets, snowmobile helmets, that they have removable pads that you can go and pull off. Okay. And what a lot of people don't understand is like if you have this red tag there, they're set up for motocross, you go and pull off that whole side piece of their helmet. This helmet doesn't have it, but you can still go and do it. I'm going to put it on there. I'm going to kind of show you how to go and do it real quick.
Sure.
Don't mind my hair. So if you did have a patient that had a helmet on, and like say we'll go over on when you should take off a helmet, when you shouldn't take off, maybe at a different episode. But I just want to go show how he
Sure.
is doing. That this side piece will actually have 3 snaps on it. That another person can actually like stick their finger in there and pop the snap, and if they go and grab the pad, it'll literally pull right out.
Oh, nice.
So once again, reach your finger in there, pop a snap, and there's actually a third snap that's on top. If you pull it down, that'll pop off all by itself.
Okay.
Your helmet now is loose on your head.
That's amazing. Yeah.
That it's very easy to go and pull off.
That's brilliant, actually, because I know that's one of the biggest fears that a lot of people have is that, did they hurt their neck? Did they hurt their
Right.
head? And like, do they don't want to pull the helmet off and put a lot of pressure on someone's neck if there's already injury there?
Right.
And so that tip that you just showed us is actually pretty amazing. Like I never even would have considered that before. That's actually brilliant, and I see it work live in action there. That's an amazing tip.
And,
So
and you can see it. My helmet fits my head tight.
mhm.
And I had a ton of room in there to go and pull it off. I'm going to actually stick Jason with you for the next podcast on how to do spinal cord injuries and
Sure.
like neck injuries or maybe something else. And maybe we'll go and I know that we're talking about getting our YouTube channel up, and I think that's going to be like one of our first episodes is how to properly remove a helmet and when to take it on and when to leave it on and wait for somebody else to go and show up.
Yeah.
It has everything to go and do with even though you have head injuries and stuff, that you can do twice as much damage by just pulling off a helmet because they have a spinal cord injury.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother ball of wax.
Yep. Nope. Absolutely. And so
My daughter's just laughing at me right now because I said ball of wax. She literally has a ball of wax made that she teases me about.
Oh,
now.
funny. Nice. So there's one more thing I kind of want to, divert off into a little bit here, and it's around, the calling for help and the communication and satellite devices and stuff a little bit.
Sure.
But is there anything else that you wanted to touch on tonight, or do you feel like you've gotten through most of the core content that you've got?
I think we got a lot of the core content. Like I said,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be a couple things that maybe I forgot. I had a bunch of notes kind of around me
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, and that's okay. And as I'm talking here in a minute, if you think of something, jot a note down. We can come back to it. But
Sure.
the thing I want to highlight for everybody now is that, you know what? We've talked about a lot of things, and those things could happen in any walk of life, right? It could be, we talked
Right.
about earlier, it could be a car accident, could be a boating accident, a jet ski accident, ATV, motorcycle, snowmobile, all of the above, right? But the one thing we just barely touched on, I want to dive into a little bit, is like that calling for help moment, right? It's like, if you've
Right.
got several people with you, we talked about dial 911, that kind of thing too. But, in many cases, these power sports activities that we're doing, we're in remote areas of the country, right? And so
Right.
whether you're, you get to the Western United States where it's much more rural, you're in mountainous terrain, more times than not, you're probably not going to be in cell phone range, right? And so the ability to just call
Yeah.
911 easily is going to be risky and low, And so something that I travel with all the time now, and even now on my cross country trip across, the country, is I've got an InReach, right? So
Yep.
the Garmin InReach is the tool that I personally use. I have in the past used Spot devices. They're also great tools. Some people have satellite phones. I don't go that far as to have an actual satellite phone. I don't feel like I'm
Right.
out frequently enough in a situation where I need it. Like if I was a professional guide and I'm out every day and people are counting on me, I might have a satellite phone, right? But for me and how I use it, that two-way text messaging that I can use no matter where I'm at, if I need to call for emergency help, I can and communicate back and forth with people. It's a great tool to be able to use and to have access to that no matter where you're at. There was a friend of yours that you've introduced me to, Steve and Scott. So we're going to have
Right.
Steve and Scott on a future episode. I spent the time with Scott on the phone today a little bit, and he shared the story with me about the accident that him and Steve were in, and they were out of cell phone range, and he had to ride away, leave his buddy there in a very serious injured condition to go and get support on 911 and then to be able to come back. And those minutes and those hours and sometimes that it takes to be able to accomplish that. And if you watch any of my old episodes, you'll hear that over and over again, where if you have a 911, like a satellite communication device, you can, from where you're at, typically hit that SOS button and send for communication for emergency support while you attend to your victim. And even if they're physically okay and will survive, the emotional stress that they're going through by being alone in the backcountry with this feeling of hopelessness and loss, in that moment that they're in this tragic injury is just, it's huge, the difference that it'll make to have a satellite communication device. And I'll just tell you, I'm not sponsored by any satellite communication devices. I'm not telling you which one to buy or whatever, but have something that you can communicate with outside of just your cell phone in most cases, at least one in your group. So
And that's one thing. And I'm glad you kind of brought up Scott, because Scott's been so pivotal. He's helped us out so much, and I've been riding now with him for like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about somebody that he had that traumatic accident that happened with Steve, which is going to make a great podcast for you. But he rides with an InReach Mini, and I ride with the InReach Explorer, and that's one thing people got to understand is like that's great that one person has that, but if that person is buried, you don't got access to that.
Yeah.
So you need multiple. You need to have multiple ones.
Absolutely.
And it's not the whole point of having it. So you need to know how to go and use it.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of options to those. I never use a Spot. I know Dad Animus has a Spot. I know he goes riding with a satellite phone. Most likely, like all guides go and do that because they need to.
Yep.
But just having the equipment is one thing, but knowing how to go and use it is like one of the most important thing. It doesn't do you any good
Absolutely.
if you go and you have this equipment and you don't know how to use it, or if you don't turn it on.
Yeah, and like the packages you can subscribe to with these different satellite devices, like the one I do is I think it's like $25 a month that I subscribe to it, and it gives me free tech, free. I pay for them, but it's like there's 40 text messages including with my package every month, and so it gives me the freedom to just text my wife even and say, hey, I'm leaving the trailhead, everything's good to go. And when I get back to the truck, I can text her again and say, hey, everything's good to go. And so if I'm riding 2, 3, 4, 5 times a month or more, I've got enough text messages back and forth over that satellite communicator that I can get good at using it and practice with it, right? So
and like one of my, because I have the same thing. I have the whole year subscription for mine, and one of my buddies is going out they're going out to it's called the backwaters. So they're going to go kayaking, and I'm like, hey, do you want to take my InReach with you just in case? And he's like, oh, lucky enough they already have one.
Yeah.
But it's the whole point is like for me, especially for like for Jason and I tried to get the business off the ground that we're doing. I want to go and use it. And it's funny because I can guarantee you that my daughter knows how to go and use an Avi beacon probably better than 90% of the other people that go out there and go out riding. For the fact that I make it a game for her. I'll go and I'll hide my other one, and she'll go and she'll track, go and locate it. She knows everything about that. Yep. So it's like one of these things like if you learn how to go and like use one, or somebody goes and teaches you it, you teach it, you learn it, you go and teach somebody else. It's all practice. It's huge. I think that's even what if we get our clinic up and running and stuff. I think that's one of the biggest things that we want to go on. We want to go and touch on getting people to have that muscle memory on when to go and call and when to go and do things, and how to do proper CPR. So it's not the first time that they go and do it. Or like you said, like even if they have to go and call for the cavalry to come in, they go and set up scenarios that we're gonna have them go out there, and we're gonna go through step by step on what it takes to go and use either a Spot, your cell phone to get like the GPS location you're at, or the InReach.
Yeah.
So people know how to go and use it. The last thing you want to go and do is go and have a stressful situation and not knowing how to use a piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna waste time just fumbling around. And we practice all those things so much at the fire department. I think we're trying to go and bring a couple of things that we learn and good habits that we do at the fire department, being paramedics, and bring it to the general public.
Yeah.
It's we're a paramilitary organization, so a lot of stuff that we get is basically comes from the military also.
Yeah.
So if they're doing it, it's because it works.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's what do they say? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of, remedy later, or whatever that phrase is. But, here's something else I'll share with everybody from my own perspective is that, having the mindset, and it's something I find myself quoting out loud over and over and over again, is prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Right.
I say that, I think, multiple times per day in the last several weeks, right? And it comes to me losing my job at T-Mobile. Like, I've got a plan A, I've got a plan B, I've got a plan C. Right. When we were up water skiing the other day, we have a plan A, plan B, plan C. But the thing is that we're in the mindset going into a situation that the worst can happen. And just being conscious of it puts you in the mindset that, should I take that extra risk or shouldn't I? And I think everything we do in life, especially if we're out there trying to have fun and push our limits, think about skydiving and base jumping, right? Like, some might say that it's like, why would you ever do that? That's like a guaranteed death sentence, right? But the people who actually do it are like, you know what? They're probably some of the safest people because they're going into that situation, understanding what the potential consequences could be, and they have a routine, they have a checklist, they have a process in place to get their mind in the right place so that they don't miss an opportunity to get through whatever it is they're getting through safely, right? I think what happens in most cases, and I don't care if you're driving a car down the road, I don't care if you're riding your ATV, you're riding your boat, it's that moment that you start to just think that, you know what, it's kind of just it's almost when you don't ever think it's going to happen is when it happens, right? That's when those accidents happen. It's because you've let your guard down, right?
I can guarantee you that one of the biggest things I hear all the time is like, I didn't think it would happen to me.
Yep.
I never thought. It was like you were talking about on how we always get prepared. We always kind of had a thing for the fire department. We always call it prepare for the lion and get the lamb.
Yep.
And what that is, like, you're going into basically like a gladiator, and they open up the gates, and you spent all this time getting ready to go and kill that lion, and getting everything, your technique perfect to go and kill like the one of the most ferocious thing out there.
Yep.
That gate opens up, and now you get a lamb. It's like, this is gonna be a piece of cake.
Yeah, exactly. You prepared for the worst, you hope for the best, right? And
Exactly.
it's even the weather yesterday, right? We had a 90% chance of rain in the forecast yesterday, and so we prepared for it. We brought raincoats. We figured like, well, we're going to go play in the water anyway, and if we have to, it'll be just thing. But guess what? We had zero rain all day. It was like a little light mist sprinkle for like 10 minutes, and all day long we had the 10% chance of no rain came true. So
see, that kind of cracks me up. I know you says like, yeah, we seen that. I had a chance of rain, so we prepared for the worst. So we brought, I don't know, water skis, a bowl, a hot dog floaty.
Yeah, like I said, you prepare for the worst,
like
you hope for the best.
Preparing for the worst.
Yep, exactly. But one thing we don't bring to the mountain, and I just want to call it out right now, is alcohol. I make it very clear to everybody on my team that we don't bring booze on the mountain when we ride, because think about all the things we were doing yesterday, and I can tell you from firsthand experience and watching everybody up there, everybody was 100% sober through that whole thing. And frankly, if anybody in my group wasn't sober, I wouldn't allow them to be out there water skipping or anything else too. You just add an extra layer of like hazard to an already potentially hazardous situation. Again, you're pushing your limits, you're having fun. But if you can stay sober, you can keep your head straight, and you can be very aware of your surroundings, what's going on, you can make those calculated risks and have a blast as we did.
Well,
so,
and that's the whole thing from you, especially with you being from Minnesota, me being from Wisconsin, and being so close to the UP. We know how trail riding goes. It's bar stops.
It can be. Yep.
I've lucked out. I ended up with a group of guys that rode fast, but none of them ever drank.
Yep.
Which has always been kind of good. I know it's a kind of a culture around Milwaukee and stuff that everything is kind of based around drinking and stuff. Not saying I never did it, but I don't. With what I got going on now, especially with my daughter and stuff, and like the sports that I'm into, I would never drink. I can't.
Yeah.
I like the sports way too much to. I want to be an advocate for it to even think about doing something like that.
Nope. Amen. Well, Rick, we're an episode that you and I talked about being maybe a 15, 20-minute episode is now an hour and 2-minute episode, just so you know.
Wonderful.
So, two guys who like to talk. And so we want to say thank you to everybody who's watching. We want to apologize if it took a little longer than we thought it would, but hopefully you guys have got some amazing information tonight. But Rick, I'm going to give you one last opportunity to kind of close this up and give us any final thoughts.
My final thoughts is just like summer's here. Everybody go out there and have fun and go and be safe.
Yep.
Keep an eye on everybody else. Remember that bad things happen to good people all the time. Yep. So be prepared. Like you said, be prepared. And when we get our first aid kits out, buy some first aid kits.
There you go. Yeah, you guys remind everybody just verbally here, and then you can drop it in the comments later too. But where can people find your first aid kits if they're interested?
I still have a bunch of the old first aid kits. And when I say old, it's just like the old version of it in there, and actually an IPAC kit. You can contact me on Facebook. You can message me on it. My telephone number is area code 414-531-7223. Send me a private message. I'll still make I'll make kits and I'll send them out to you. Yeah. Oh, also I want to thank Scott Campbell. That's going to be
he's watching tonight. So
yep, he's going to be doing the Iron Dog race. We just sent him out some decals. He's waiting for like the new packs to come out. We're excited to be part of his crew and helping to go and sponsor him.
Yep.
So just want to make sure that I say hi to him. Thanks, Scott, for everything you've been doing.
Absolutely.
And that's about it.
Cool. Well, what I wrap up every show with, I tell everybody is, again, don't forget if you haven't already, share the show. We've got a lot of really great information in this episode tonight that truly is educational information. I know a lot of stuff I've heard for the first time tonight ever. So again, if you haven't seen the rest of the show, go back and watch it. But share it out to your friends. And like when you share it out, guys, don't just share it, but share it out and add a comment as you're sharing it and let people know, like, hey, some great first aid information about head injuries. A lot of great lessons learned tonight. And so let people know what we're watching and why they're watching it and why it's important. And as everybody knows, live large, which is live life to the fullest, make the most of every day, and make a difference in somebody else's life. And so we've done that tonight, I hope, when everybody's watched this show. And finally, God bless everybody. Live large. Have a great night.
Good night, guys.